Today we are going to start a new chapter, chapter 10. The topic today will be the square roots and surds. So there are three learning targets. Please copy them on your class wall. Number 1, I can find square root. Number 2, I can find the values of square roots. Number 3, I can identify the surds. Question 1. Do you know the value of 7 square? 7 square means 7 times 7, right? So the answer is 49. So now question 2. If I know a number that its square is 49, then do you know what the number is? The answer is 7, right? So now let's consider the example. 8 square equals to 64, right? So we can say that the number 64 is a square number of the number 8. On the other hand, number 8 is a square root of the 64. So this is the definition of the square root. So next, besides number 8, we can also find another square root of 64 because negative 8 bracket square also equals to 64. So both the positive 8 and the negative 8 are the two square roots of 64. And later on, we are going to use the radical signs to represent the square roots. But before that, let's consider another example. How about 121? Can you find its square roots? Since 11 square is 121, and also negative 11 bracket square also equals to 121, so we can see that the square roots of 121 are 11 and negative 11. So can you find the square root of the following numbers? For part A, because 18 square equals to 324, and negative 18 bracket square also equals to 324. So the square roots are 18 and also negative 18. For part B, because 0.4 square equals to 0.16, and then negative 0.4 bracket square equals to 0.16 as well. So the square roots are 0.4 and negative 0.4. So now let's consider the radical signs. We may see that the negative sign, the radical sign is the opposition of the square, just like the addition is the opposition of the subtraction. So let's take a look at the example on the left-hand side. If we are asked to find out the square root of 64, then we may consider 8 square and also negative 8 bracket square, right? So on the right hand side, if we put the radical sign on top of 64, in order to find in order to solve the problem, then first of all we need to turn the 64 into 8 square. Then the radical signs will be cancelled out with the square inside. Then our answer will be 8. So that means this number 8 will be equivalent to the positive square root. So the radical sign on top of 64 is equivalent to the positive square root. So that means we may say the radical sign to be the square root. Okay, these two terms has a similar meaning. But bear in mind, for the radical sign, we can only get the positive value. So it is not equivalent to the negative square root, right? So we only means the positive values. So let's consider the following example. Can you find the values of the radical sign on top of 25? Or we can say it this way, can you find the values of the square root of 25? Because 25 is equivalent to 5 square, so we turn the square root 25 into square root of 5 square. Then the square root and the square will be cancelled out, and the answer is 5. So how about the second question? Find the values of the square root of 1/4. First of all, because 1/4 can be turned into the brackets 1/2 square, so the radical sign or the square root will be cancelled out with the square. So the answer is 1/2. So now, can you find the values of the following square roots? For part A, because 289 is equivalent to 17 square, so the square roots will be cancelled out with the square inside. The answer is 17. For part B, because 1/36 is equivalent to the brackets 1/6 square, then the square roots will be cancelled out with the square inside, then the answer will be negative 1/6. And then, as we know, the square root of 64, the square root of 49, and the square root of 4 can be represented by integers, right? However, there are some square roots that cannot be written as the integers or fractions. Then we can call these square roots surds. So, for example, square root of 2, square root of 3, square root of 5, and square root of 11. They are all surds because we cannot use any integer or fractions to represent them. And then for the square root of 25, it is equivalent to 5. So this is an integer. So this is not a surd. For the square root of 1/4, it is equivalent to 1/2. So which is the fractions. So it is not a surd as well. So lastly, you may face some application problems. Let's consider this example. Given the area of the sphere is 5 square units, what is the values of x? Do you still remember about the square? The square means that each of the sides should be equal, right? So since this is x units, this is also x units. So in order to find the area of the square, we may use x times x, which is x squared. Then we can set up the equations x squared equals to 5. Next, in order to cancel out the square on the left-hand side, we may use the square root because the square root can be cancelled out with the square. But on the right-hand side, remember to make it balanced. To the right-hand side, we have to put the square root as well. But on the right-hand side, we need to write into two answers because there is a positive square root as well as the negative square root. Okay, so one is the square root 5, another is the negative square root 5. But it is impossible for us to have a negative number as the length, so we need to reject the negative number. Okay, the negative square root 5, we need to reject it. So that means our answer will be square root 5, and it is the exact value. Then you may ask me, can we estimate the value of the square root 5? Of course, yes. We may estimate the value of the square root 5 in the following using the following three square. There is a smaller square on the left where the area is 4, the size is 2, and then there is another larger square on the right hand side. Okay, the area is 9 and the size is 3. So we put the three square in this way. We combine them. Then we can see that by comparing the lengths of the sides, we know that the square root 5 is in between 2 and 3. Okay, so this is the estimations. Or we can also use a calculator to obtain a more accurate value of the square root 5. So now, please take out your calculator and follow the following sequence. First of all, please press the square root button, and then press the number 5, and then press the close bracket. The close brackets indicates the end of the square root, and then press the execute. So we get the answer. The answer will be 2.24 corrected to 3 significant figures. So now, can you find the values of the following square roots by using the calculator? For part A, the answer will be 22.4 correct to 3 significant figures. For part B, the values will be 7.52 correct to 3 significant figures. So now, today we have finished the 3 targets. First of all, we have identified, find the square root. One is positive and one is negative. And then secondly, we also know that the radical size, which is equivalent to the positive square root. And then lastly, we can identify the surds.